Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Using BIM 360 Glue to Coordinate Your BIM Project. This webinar is brought to you by Live Lab Learning, which is a subsidiary of Academic Corp, a wholly owned applied software company created to provide world-class training. This is Linda Netzer, and I'm delighted to be your moderator today. Throughout our presentation, we encourage you to interact with us by typing in questions and comments using the questions pane. We will be answering questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to you online on our YouTube channel. Please take note of our upcoming event, BIM Bam Boom. As part of Architecture Month, AIA Orlando is hosting the annual BIM Bam Boom Technology Competition at Valencia College West Campus on October 22nd. Join Applied Software as we look to defend our big win last year. Our expert team will compete in a BIM battle against two other competitors to put on display our unique software capabilities in response to a design problem based on a historic Ronchamp structure. Find out more information at AIA Orlando's website. Please join me in welcoming today's speaker, Mark Petrucci, Senior Application Specialist for Applied Software. Mark started his engineering career in upstate New York before moving to Atlanta, Georgia. He has worked 20-plus years in the AEC industry, where he started working as a surveyor, then a CAD BIM manager, and then an IT manager before joining Applied Software as a consultant and trainer. Mark has taught AutoCAD classes for 8 years at a local college. Mark joined Applied Software as a senior application specialist, and his years in construction, AutoCAD, Revit, and consulting experience provide an excellent foundation to guide clients through their transition from CAD to BIM. In addition to AutoCAD, AutoCAD Architecture, Revit Architecture, Mark is also the Applied Software Specialist in Autodesk QTO, Autodesk Showcase, and BIM 360 Field and Glue. Mark is one of the few selected people who can teach BIM 101 for the Associated General Contractors of America. There's a fun fact about Mark. He loves baseball, and he's the baseball director at his local park. Mark, take it away.
All right, thank you, Linda. Didn't know you were going to throw that fun fact in there. So, okay. All right, guys. Well, welcome. We're going to take a look at BIM 360 Glue to coordinate your BIM projects, and hopefully you'll like this presentation. I keep modifying it because there's just so much I want to tell you, and I'm going to try and stick to this agenda as much as possible. So we'll first talk about what is BIM 360 Glue, why use BIM 360 Glue, and then we'll look at some of the features: easy model access, cloud-based collaboration, real-time coordination and resolution, design review with markup and tracking, and then we'll access it via a mobile device, and at the end I'll show you on my iPad, Glue on the iPad. So first, what is Glue? BIM 360 Glue, it's a cloud-based service that allows architects and engineers to coordinate with each other. We can also allow owners the ability to view their model. The interface for Glue is so easy that you do not have to be a Revit user, a CAD user, a Navisworks user. It's designed for anybody that has access to the project and give them the ability to review the project. So the intent here is to allow architects and engineers the ability to focus on design and design revisions, and then as a result resolve the issues quickly. So we'll go through examples of generating real-time clash detection, markups and tracking, and mobile device access at the very end. So why use Glue? All right, let's be real. Projects must be built on time and on budget, and coordination is challenging. And design is a time-consuming process, and so you want to focus as much time on design and not on trying to coordinate. So we know small mistakes will cost time and money. It will affect the bottom line of our project. So why use Glue? Because architects and engineers need a faster and easier way to coordinate models. So we'll look at that. So first of all, how does it all work? Basically, architects, engineers in different offices or even in the same office have the ability to take their model and push it up to the cloud. When you push it up to the cloud, we push it up to the Autodesk Glue service, and an admin will create a project and then allow the different disciplines to post their model up in the cloud. Once the model is then coordinated or combined, then anyone has the ability to go in there and review the model. So we'll just push our models up to the cloud, and finally we can review our federated model up on the cloud. Now you do see an arrow coming back to our Revit project, and the reason for that is because when I start doing clash detections in the cloud, excuse me, when I do clash detections in the cloud, I could actually pull the clashes down to my Revit model, and I could see in my Revit model which components are clashing, and I can make adjustments. And we'll take a look at that at the end. So let's look at some features and talk about some of the features of BIM 360 Glue. First of all, easy model access. Learning new software is hard, but Glue is easy. We don't need to install any software on a computer. We don't need IT to come by and install software. The service runs in the cloud. So a little shortcut gets placed on your computer, but that shortcut just links you to Glue on the cloud. And the benefit and the ease of accessing the model means that we always have access to the most updated project models from anywhere at any time. If my models were just in my office, I could only view them in the office. Put them up on the cloud, set up permissions for different people, different team members to view the model, and now you can view it from anywhere at any time. So let's just take a real quick look here, a video that I just created, where first we'll go ahead and we'll log in. And so I'll access the Autodesk BIM 360 website, and I will create a project. Now the interface is fairly easy for admins. I'll hit the Create button, and then I'll create a project. All it does is ask me for a name, which I've already done here. I've created a project called Autobahn Glue, but it'll ask me for a name, and then it'll ask me for members for this particular project. In this screen you can see 4 members that I have invited to this project. What will happen is once you invite somebody, they will receive an email. And so let's take a look at what the email looks like. So when the email arrives to the user, they'll get this real simple interface. I'm going to go ahead and pause this right now. Real simple interface. It just lets you know that a particular person has invited you to this project. And if you want to get started, you hit that big Get Started button, and it will take you to the Autodesk website. Now, if you don't have an Autodesk ID, you do need to create one, and so you have that opportunity to do it at that point. Once you get to the Glue website, you will see different users will see different projects that they have access to. And one of the things that I can do right now, all I'm doing is just going to go view some projects. But let's say I'm an architect or an engineer, and I want the ability now to glue my model up to the cloud. So I can go to the upper right-hand corner to Help, and it will take me to a page where I can now download an add-in for Revit, AutoCAD, Navisworks Manage and Simulate, as well as BIM, AutoCAD Civil 3D. Now I do want to correct something. With the 2015 product, BIM 360 Glue is incorporated in the 2015 products. So when you install it, it's automatically in there. Now you have the option to not install it, so that there's a little checkbox. If you don't have it, you'll have to rerun the install, and then you can install Glue with your 2015 products. So we're going to go ahead and access this project right here called Autobahn Glue. Now I can review quickly if there have been any changes to markups or clashes or views. One of the beauties of Glue is it keeps track of everything that anybody does when they access this project. It keeps track of activities. So I've been in this project quite a bit getting it set up. In this case here, I'm looking at my models. Now I took my Revit model and I uploaded. I'm Mr. Architect. I'm Miss Engineer. And I can upload my model to the 360 Glue website. I'll go ahead and continue this. And each one can have its own set of markups and views, and we'll take a look at that. But then I can combine all the models together. And once I combine them all together, now I can use the power of Glue to start coordinating and see where I may have some problems that need to get resolved. So here's the Glue interface. This is what's beautiful about the Glue interface. Very easy, not much to it. One big toolbar on the left-hand side, one little toolbar on the right-hand side. Now I will mention this toolbar on the right. This is our navigation bar. Very similar to Revit. So if you know how to use Revit, you know how to use that toolbar. If you've never used Revit, it's pretty intuitive and easy to figure out, but we can also show you if you need some assistance. So some of the icons we're going to take a look at. We have a measure tool inside of Glue. Models, we can review models and turn them on and off. We can create saved views. So I can go to a particular area, and if I want to get back to it, I can save that view. Markups, this is huge. Markups, I can start annotating, creating red lines right here inside of Glue, and then share them with team members. Next is activities. So if I want to look at what activities have happened recently. And then finally, clashes, problems within my model. So we're going to go ahead and first kind of rotate, and we'll just move around. The view cube in the upper corner, same exact view cube in pretty much every Autodesk product out there that has 3D capability. So very easy to move around. I also have the ability to right-click, and depending where I right-click, I have some different menus as well. There's not a whole lot of right-clicking you have to do, but we do have some additional options with right-clicking. Easiest way for me to rotate around is just use my Shift key and middle mouse button to rotate, and I can just roll the middle mouse buttons forward and backwards to zoom in and out. Now I did save a view here. When I click on entry, immediately it takes me to a specific location in my project. But anytime if you get lost in the project, right up here in the corner there's a little house button. It takes you back to a default view. Next, I'll show you how we have the ability to control the visibility of different models. So here I have a list of my 3 models that I have in this project. My architecture, my MEP, and my structural model. If I hit the little eyeball here, my show hide button, I can actually hide the entire model. So now I could focus in on the structure or the MEP. I can go ahead and toggle off the entire MEP model, and now I can focus on just the structure. But not only can I show and hide the entire model, I could actually show and hide specific parts to the model. And for those of you familiar with Revit, you'll see the same categories that exist in Revit exist here inside of Glue. So if I want to toggle the structural foundation on and off, I can do it. And you can see my columns, the structural foundation for my columns is turning on and off. So I can actually drill down and hide individual objects. I can also hide objects by picking them on the screen and then right-click and say hide. So multiple ways of modifying your view and selecting objects inside of 360 Glue. Next, what I'll do is I'll go back to my view, my entry view, and let's take a look at the navigation bar on the right-hand side. I want the ability to walk through or fly through my project. Some of you may recognize this. Navisworks has this. I have the ability where I can just pick these little footprints, and now I can walk through my model. As I'm looking at this, I realize I've got these objects floating up in space. I'll click on an object, and I'll right-click and look at its view properties, and it says that's a recessed can light. Well, obviously, there's a problem there. Now, I'm not going to mark it up just yet. We'll do this a little bit later, but I can look at this and realize that there's a problem. I can mark it up and then send an email to the correct people to say, okay, let's fix this, adjust your Revit model. But for now, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and continue through the project. Those of you using AutoCAD, Revit, Navisworks, you'll probably recognize the navigation wheel. Exact same wheel that we have in those products. And using that, I have the ability, I can walk forwards, backwards, left, right. I could zoom in, zoom out, pan. I could tilt my head so I'm looking up or looking down. So I'm just going to go ahead and just progress into my project here, and I'll go ahead and hit the look button, and I can just look around. Imagine owners having the ability to walk around the design model, because we're still in design mode here, and we want to make sure that everything's going to fit together, but they may make a last-minute change. I know it never happens, but they'll be able to get a feel for what the space is going to look like by walking through our Glue model. Here's a classroom that I'm just going to walk around in this classroom, get an idea what it looks like. And if I decide that I want to come right back to this classroom, I can save this view. Very easy. So I'll hit the View button. Right up top here, first button says Add View, and I'll just give this a name. I can save this to the project, or I can save it just for myself. So I'm not creating a whole bunch of views that other people are going to be upset because they see them. And by simply clicking on the view name, I can jump back and forth between different parts of my project. So one last view that we'll create here, maybe I approach this, maybe this is a bookstore. And so I want to jump back to here. I'll go ahead and save it. And I'll give this a name. And so I'll just go ahead and type in here books. Be real quick and short. Anytime any of these views, I have the ability to email that view to somebody. And I'll say, hey, take a look at the classroom. I could shoot them an email. We'll take a look at that in just a bit. Let's look at another feature of 360 Glue and how this really works with Revit. And we're going to talk about cloud-based collaboration. Again, multiple design models, we can coordinate that on the cloud. And what is the biggest issue with Navisworks? Navisworks, you have to get one person to collect all the project files. With Glue, everybody can glue up, or anybody who has access, can glue their model up to the cloud. So this frees up that one dedicated person. No need to hassle team members to get me your project file on Monday morning because you got to generate reports Monday evening for Tuesday or Wednesday's meeting. So the benefit also is you can update your model as often as you like. So let's take a look at this. Here is the architect working on the architectural product. Go ahead and click the Glue button. When you click the Glue button, it will take you to the Glue website and whatever projects you have available. So I'll click on the Autobahn Glue project. Then I will glue a particular view or multiple views. I have this 3D view which I'm going to go ahead and glue up to the site. Now, I've already done this once before. I made an update, but that's okay because Glue will keep track of my different versions of my Revit model, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Glue button, and when I do this, a message does pop up that says, this was last glued on a particular date and time. Do you want to save this as a new version or update what's on the web? Well, I made some changes. Let's go ahead and update what's on the web. So while the architect is doing this, and the architect is in, let's say, New York, structural engineer might be in California, and the structural engineer will want to go ahead and do the same thing. Now this message pops up. It says your model's being glued, and a message will pop up in a little bit to let me know when it's finished gluing up to the web. Meanwhile, here's the structural engineer in California working on the same project. And they realize, okay, I'm at a point I'm going to go ahead and glue this up to BIM 360 Glue. So same workflow. Hit the Glue button. Drag this back on the screen. Select the project that this relates to. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this 3D view. And I'll hit Next. I'll get the same response because this has already been updated. I'm going to go, or this is already on the website. I'm going to go ahead and update it. And so I'll just wait a few seconds here, and this is telling this structural engineer now that this model is being glued, and they will receive a message when it is finished. Going back to the architect in New York, they're working away, and all of a sudden this pops up that says your model has successfully glued. And if you want to, there's a link there that takes you right to the Glue website. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a look now at the project. And I'll pan down, and I'm going to go back to my Autobahn Glue project. When I hover over Glue Structure, actually, I guess I didn't show that. You'll see it right here. First of all, we'll take a look at the activity in the upper right-hand corner. It's actually telling you that I updated the Glue architectural model to version 2. It tells you when I did it. When I hover over it, it also tells me I'm using version 2, and I'm sorry, it just cut off there on the left-hand side. But it knows that I've updated the model, so the next time I go into my merged model, I'll have the updated structural file and the updated architectural file. I'll give this just a few seconds. and we'll let this finish. Now, I'm not sure what changes were made, so I could review the activity. If I did clash reports before, I could use the clash reports to help me to find out if any clashes have been resolved. And actually, let me pause this real quick. Here's where I was showing you the models. I hover over it, it lets you know that I'm on version 2, and it has the date and time that this file was updated. And we'll see what happens here because I don't remember what I did next after this. Oh, I click on activities, and here I can actually see a list of all my activities. And so now architecture and structure, again, just another place. It's got the date and the timestamp so I know when it's been updated. All right. Let's go ahead and now let's look at design review with markup and tracking. All right, paper-based markups and red lines are difficult to share. All right, we've all done it, and you bring it back to the office. Maybe you scan it in. Maybe you take a picture of it. Maybe you email it. But email is not a good way to organize your markups. With Glue, it keeps track of all of our markups. It keeps track of who created them, who received them, and we can each go into the same markup and make our own edits to an existing markup. So it makes it very, very easy. So another benefit is with the markups that you can send an email based on the markup, and the person receiving the email lets them know that there was a markup, and when they click on a link, it takes them directly to the markup on the Glue website. So they don't have to go look for the markup. It takes them there. So it's a great way to improve communication and efficiency. So let's take a look at that real quick here. So I have some views created here. Here's the views I created earlier. There's my entry, and I'm going to go ahead and just approach my building, and like before, I notice I've got these light fixtures that are just sitting above or hovering above my building. So I'm going to go ahead and start up the markup tool. Markup tool, there's a nice add button. I'll select add, and it opens up a little toolbar at the top. I'll change the color of my markup, and maybe I'll go ahead and just place an oval around the object in question. And if I want to, I could add some text. I could put a note right here on the screen, or in my email I could type in a note. So anywhere I can type in information. So I add that to my markup, maybe do a little bit more sketching, and then I'll go ahead and save this markup so it gets saved permanently. I guess I just have a few more lights here that I'm going to go ahead and highlight. Now once I do that, it creates a markup in my list, but I'm going to go ahead and rename it, and I'll rename it to give it something logical. So when I review my list of markups, I can find them quickly. So lights above building. Now you'll notice when I zoom away or walk away, the markup disappeared. But as soon as I double click on the markup, it reappears again. So as soon as I move my point of view, it'll erase the markup on the screen. Now if I click on the little email button, I could select whichever project team members are part of this particular project, and I could put a message in here, and then I could just hit the send button, and Robbie will receive an email from me, and it will have a link, and it'll take him right to this view. He doesn't have to go find the view. It'll take him right to this view. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and just approach inside the building here. We'll create one more markup. And this markup I'll send to myself. And then we'll take a look at the email that's received. So I walk in here and I happen to notice that it looks like my light fixture is running into some of my round ducts. So I'm going to go ahead and create a markup. And I'll just quickly sketch an area just to kind of draw attention to where it is, where I'm looking. And then I'll go ahead and hit the save button to save this. And I'll just rename it, again, just to help me organize it and find it later. So I'll just say, there's a problem with the duct in the lobby, or, draw attention to the duct in the main lobby. I'll hit the email button. I'll go ahead and just send it to myself, put a little quick note to remind me to follow up on this later. And if I want that email, if I want to use that email, I click on the link in the email, and it'll take me directly back to this particular location. All right, so now the notification has been sent to my Outlook. I'll go ahead and close that up. I'm going to go ahead and back to my main screen, and I'll open up my Outlook. And here's the link. There's my message, follow up about this with MEP, and then duct and main lobby. That is my markup. That will take me directly to that particular view. And if I wait a second here, it first looks like it's going to show me the entire project, but then it knows to go right to that particular markup. So now I can decide what I want to do with this. And let me just go ahead and I'll just stretch my screen out a little bit. And I have the ability, since let's say this markup was received by Joe, and when I receive it, I can go into this markup and I actually can add to this markup. So I'm going to highlight in a different color that says, all right, let's go ahead and move these lights down. And I'll jump ahead just a little bit here. And what I want you to see here in the list, right here under duct and main lobby markup, actually I'm going to back up just a little bit because I jumped ahead. There's the two people that marked up this particular markup. So it's keeping track of all the different people that are going in there and adding information to that particular markup. So I'll go ahead and just simply email that. I'm going to jump forward a little bit. And now that has been tracked. It is an activity that's been tracked inside of Glue. All right, so now let's talk about real-time clash detection and resolution. All right, I have the ability, I was walking through the model and I saw some stuff that was clashing. And I can continue to walk through the model, but that's time-consuming. With Glue, I can use it to find and isolate the clashing elements. And then everybody asks the question, well, what about Navisworks? Is this a replacement for Navisworks? No, it's not. All right, with Navisworks I have many other abilities, such as the sequencing that I can do with Navisworks. I can't do that with Glue, but with Glue I can do the clash detection. It's very easy. Can I still use Navis? Sure, you can do it, but in design mode for architects and engineers, Glue is a much better option for you. So we're not replacing Navisworks here. We're merely, it's another program in addition to Navisworks. So the beautiful thing about clash detection is that all the clashes are documented. Emails are sent to project team members to let them know where the problems are. And then we're going to take a look at this thing called Clash Pinpoint, which inside of Revit, now I can do the clashes up in the cloud and then pull them down to my Revit model so I know where I can make the necessary corrections. So let's take a look at that. So in this particular case here, I'm going to quickly just show you that if I was to do this manually, I might turn off the roof. And so I touch a roof, I'll come over here to the category roof, and I could say, all right, let's hide the selected objects. And so now the roof is hidden, and then I can zoom in and start looking for clashes. Not the most efficient way, but if I want to do some looking around the entire project, I can. A quick little tool which I'll show you is the measure tool, as long as I'm in here. The measure tool allows me to measure between 2 points. And notice as I hover over around duct, it's actually going to go right on the surface of the duct or a wall, whatever I pick. Now it gives me the distance between those 2 points, but there's a nice little feature here called shortest distance. And I'll pick 2 components, and Glue will automatically calculate the distance, the shortest distance between those 2 points. And so that's what you're looking at right there, just under 9 inches. Well, let's go back and let's look at the clashing now. What I'm going to do here, just to make sure that everything is turned on, I'm going to go ahead and turn the roof back on. And what we're going to look at now is clashes. So we'll generate this report. Now, for those of you who've used Navisworks, this looks similar to Navisworks, but it is actually a very easy interface to work with. So I'm creating a brand new clash, and I could look at categories, and maybe I just want to compare ducts with my structural steel. So I'll go ahead and select my structural framing. I could set up a tolerance, so maybe it won't show me objects that are clashing by 1/16 of an inch. Well, I want to see anywhere where objects are touching. And so I'll give it a name, and I'll just call this ducts versus structure, and in this, or framing, excuse me. And in this particular case, it found 88 clashes. And you can actually see the little yellow markers on the screen to let you know where the clashes exist. Now, we will go through the process where we will resolve, close, and ignore some of the clashes. But for now, let's say that we want to look at one of the clashes. Now, if you come back over, and that jumped really quick here, if I come right over here to my clash list, when I click on it, right here, clash number 88, it opens up a separate window, and it's letting me know which duct and which structural steel member are clashing. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this video. And it color codes it. The other thing that it does is it hides or makes the rest of the model somewhat transparent so I can see the two objects that are clashing. Well, that's an obvious problem. So from here, I can create a markup, just like I did before. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick little circle here, and maybe just another one just to draw attention. I could put a note, put some text in here and say, hey, let's go ahead and call the structural guy and tell him he's got to move his beam. It's like, oh, wait a minute. No, we're not going to move the beam. We'll move the ductwork. So put in a quick little note on the screen. I could do that in my email. It doesn't matter. I can put it anywhere. I have that option. The beauty of putting it in the email, it's going to be recorded. It's going to be tracked. Here it's being recorded as an image file. So I'll just add a comment, and I'll just put whatever comment and say this needs to be resolved. Contact our MEP guys and make sure we lower the duct. Do something to resolve that clash. So now I've added a comment, and you'll notice right over here my little yellow comment, and right next to it is my markup. So that's, I can email that now to any one of my users. So I'll email it to my MEP engineer. And again, this is all being recorded. So I'll let this jump ahead a little bit. Now I've got a clash here that says that I've got a clash of 1/16 of an inch. You know, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, well, I could spin this around and really it's just barely touching the steel. So maybe I'll just put a comment in here and I'll say, you know what, this is okay. We can make this fit in the field, you know, not a problem. If I'm the MEP engineer or maybe the contractor, I said, oh yeah, I can make this fit. And I can choose to ignore this for future clashes, or I can just simply close this and say, okay, this is not an issue anymore. Let's take a look at one more issue. Again, I've got some ductwork just barely touching my joist. And so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put in a comment, and you know what? Maybe my MEP guys say, hey, we can make this fit, so we'll make it work. Well, in this case, I'm going to choose to ignore it. I'm not going to close it, but I'll ignore it. Now, if you take a look on the left here, you'll see the different symbols that appear next to each clash. And so that's a quick way that you can tell which classes you can ignore, which ones are closed, and which ones are still active. I have some toggles here, so I could toggle whether the markers are visible or not. Notice there's one toggle so it does not zoom in to my clash, but then there's a toggle that says, yes, do zoom into the clash. So you have a lot of flexibility on how you want to view a particular clash. And we'll go ahead and we'll close this up. And once I close up that dialog window, I'm seeing the entire model. If I look at the overview, this is actually telling me I still have 86 open cases, clashes. I can ignore one, and one of them has been closed. Now I'm the MEP engineer, and I receive an email that there's a clash, so I can use a function called clash pinpoint. When I select clash pinpoint, it actually shows me my clash, the email that I received. And let me pause this real quick here. Clash number 88. Okay, this needs to be resolved. That was that big round duct hitting my steel. And then clash number 2, I have that arrow that just says, hey, I can ignore that. Well, if I want to take a look at that particular object to see where it is in my model, I'll hit View Selected, and what it will do is it'll hide everything else on the screen except for that one particular clash, or that one particular object that's clashing. Now, by the way, guys, my screen, because of the resolution, I've got these big windows that are popping up. Normally, they're smaller, easier to work with. But now I know which duct is a problem. Now, for the MEP guys out there, I'm going to go ahead and lower this duct. All right, I'm going to cause some other issues, but just to get it out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and just lower it real quick. You might cringe at me doing this, but I do want to get that clash resolved, so I'm going to go ahead and lower it. So it's got a height offset of 11 feet. I'm going to simply just change it to 9 feet. I am not an MEP engineer, but I'm going to go ahead and move that. There's a problem with one of my components, and so it wants to delete it. I'll say yes for this demo. So not only did I lower that one round duct, but the entire system that follows it also was lowered, or parts of it were lowered. So I may have resolved some other issues, and actually I did. That wasn't a plan, but it happened. So what I'll do now is I'll glue this back up to the website. And I hit the update button, and just like the architect and the structural engineer, it is now going to update the glue model. I'll get an email to let me know when it's finished. If I go to the website too early, notice Glue MEP is telling me that the model is gluing. If I click on it, it's not going to let me access it just yet. Once it finishes, then I'll be able to go into it. Now the MEP engineer knows that they've successfully glued. There's the little link that takes you back to the website, and I can go ahead and click on my Autobond glue project. Lots of activity going on, just by one person, lots of activity. And so I'm going to go ahead and access this merge model. What we're going to do now is we're going to run that same clash. And because I moved that round duct, that clash should not appear anymore. So I'll come up and I'll click on ducts and framing, or ducts versus framing. Now when I click on it, it's going to actually show me the same list of clashes that I saw before. But what I need to do is right up here, I have a refresh button. So we still see that same clash number 88. That's still a problem. But there's a refresh button right here that I'm going to click on, and it's going to go ahead and now load the updated MEP version 2 model. And when I do that, notice it's automatically labeled clash number 88 as being resolved. My other two clashes that I said ignore and closed, it labeled them as resolved as well. So they're not showing up in this updated report. And so I'm just kind of showing you that that duct now has been lowered and it's not interfering with the beam. Now then the next question comes, it's like, well, wait a minute, where's all my other clashes? Because I had more than just 3. Well, I could look at the history, and the history will show me, oh yeah, I had 87 clashes yesterday, or I still have 87 clashes from yesterday. And then I have clashes that I did moments ago. It's letting me know when I review yesterday's clashes how many are active, how many are ignored. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my duct versus framing, and I'm going to go ahead and select duct again, and I'm going to redo that clash report. And as of yesterday, I had 87. Now I have 79 or 78. So it looks like I have 79. One of them being resolved right down here. Number 88 has been resolved. So I can do this at any time. I don't have to wait for my MEP engineer to send me a file at the end of the week. As soon as I make some corrections as the architect or the engineer, I can glue them up to the website, and once they get up there, you can start doing clashing. Here's just another view. So here's 164. Looks like I've got some more clashing I have to resolve. And finally, let's take a look at access from mobile devices. What's beautiful about this is that the interface on the iPad app looks very much like the interface on the internet from your PC. So we can review projects anywhere at any time. With the iPad app, I can control the visibility of models and objects. I can hide and unhide objects. I can access, create, and share markups. Imagine being at the job site with the 3D model, and you can create markups right at the job site. I could access views in the model. Remember those views I created like entry and books? I can click on them and take me right to that particular area. I can use the measure command, and I can also send notifications. Any of the markups and views I create, I can share them with others. Now I put here it works with or without internet connection. Well, you need internet connection to download the model to your iPad. Once it's downloaded, it's stored on your iPad. Then you can head out to the job site and you have your model from this morning. Now, you don't have to worry about if somebody's updating the model on the cloud, because when you bring your file back, Glue knows how to keep track of the different models, and it knows it's going to keep different versions. So no need to worry about that. So let's go ahead and take a look at BIM 360 Glue on the iPad, and I'm going to do this one live. So I'm going to go ahead and share my iPad. And what you're looking at right now is my iPad. Right up here is my BIM 360 Glue app. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on that. Takes me to all my projects that I have access to. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on my Autobahn project, which is right down here. So I'll go ahead and click on that. Now, I am looking at the merged model. Right here, this icon, this is my merged model where I have my architecture, my MEP, my structure all combined. Watch when I click over here on this button. This is showing my individual models. And notice the individual models, I have the cloud. This is telling me that this was updated and I can download the latest version to my computer, or to my iPad, excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, merge model, and we'll take a look at the interface. So this is running on an iPad. Very, very similar interface. We see some of the same icons down here that we have in Glue on the PC, except instead of being vertically on the left side, they're down at the bottom. The only thing that's different is this interface that we see right here. I have a joystick so that I can move around the project. I have my home button, which will bring me back to my home view. This button right here will turn on gravity. Just like in Navisworks, when I turn on gravity, I can now walk on floors. If I have stairs, I could walk up and down stairs. And then this one I'm going to save here for the end. This is a cool little tool that we're going to take a look at. So let's do this first. Let me go ahead and click on this button right down here, which is my model. When I click on it, I see right on the right here my architecture, my MEP, and my structure. And clicking on the little show hide button, and I'm just using my finger. I'm pointing with the mouse, but I'm just using my finger to display it. So I can focus on specific parts of my project. I'm going to go ahead and close up the model. I could zoom in using my fingers. I could pinch to zoom. I can use two fingers to pan over left and right. I could use one finger to rotate my view around. So then I could zoom in to a particular area. I'm doing this all with just my fingers here. Well, I'm going to click on this button right here, which is my view button. When I click on that, I have some shared views. I have some architectural views. I have some views from my MEP, my structural model. Okay, views that if I had uploaded them, if from any of my Revit models, they would appear here. Let's take a look at shared views. I'm going to click on shared views with my finger on the iPad, and here are those views that I made: books, classroom, entry. So I'll select entry, and it takes me to that particular view. Go to classroom. There's my classroom view. I'm going to go back to entry, and I'm going to go ahead and close up my shared view right now. Now, using this joystick, okay, notice there's no navigation bar over here on the right. I don't need it. This is a joystick. I place my thumb on here, and I simply push my thumb left, right, forward, backward. So I do that, and now I can walk through this project. Now, the farther I push it away from the center, the faster it'll walk. And so I can take a look at it, and I could look at my view just like I did before. I can rotate this around, but again, using my finger. Well, let's take a look at this markup tool. So I'm going to click on that little pencil, and here are the markups that I had before. So here's my duct versus framing. I'm going to click on that one at the top. That takes me directly to the markup that I created on the computer. And I can actually zoom out a little bit and notice it has a very nice way of making everything else transparent except for those particular objects that might be clashing. Now, notice these are not clashing because remember I moved that duct down. I had moved that duct out of the way, so maybe I'll send an email and it says, oh, this has been resolved. I'm going to go ahead and switch to, let's say, clash markups, and I'll go to, not that one, let's go to MEP issues. I'll go to lights above building. And this takes me right back to the same view that I created earlier before. So same exact views. All right, I'm going to go ahead and we'll do one more thing here. Whoops. I'm going to go ahead and click the house button, get to my house view, and I'm going to go back to my entry. I'll go ahead and just kind of approach the building again. And once I enter the building, I'll just give it a second for it to catch up. And then I can look around and see if there's anything that I need to create a markup for. Well, if I'm looking at this right here, I notice I've got duct right here running into steel. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and hit the little pencil, and if I want to I could actually hide or unhide, but I'm going to come right down at the bottom here and I'm going to change my color to orange, do a pencil, and I'll just kind of circle this area, and I could type in a note, I could do a measure, I can save this. In the upper right hand corner you see the save button. I'll hit the save button. I've now created this markup, and then if I want to I could hit the email button, and I can decide if I want to email just one markup or multiple markups. And I'll go ahead and hit notify, and then here's the same interface that we saw on the website. So I could hit the to button, and it shows me the names of everybody involved in my project, and I can go ahead and select myself or a couple people, and then I come in here and type in a note. And I'll just hit return, and in the upper right hand corner I'm going to hit the send button. Now I've created a markup from my iPad, and that markup will be sent to that particular person. Now if I go ahead and just kind of move forward a little bit, that markup disappeared. I'll just show you the measure tool on here. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Let's say I want to measure the distance between, let's say, this wall and this wall. So right down here is my measure tool. I'll select measure. Now if I do measure points, I'll pick any point on these two walls, and so I'll pick one point here, I'll pick a point on the other side, and actually it's a little hard to see, so I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go ahead and clear this. Clear, upper corner, and we'll do measure one more time. So I'll pick that wall, I'll pick this wall, and right there it's determined the distance, and it's hidden everything else to make it easier for me to see. And there's the distance between those two walls. And notice in the upper right-hand corner or upper left-hand corner, it's giving me some X, Y, Z coordinates. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit the clear button and then done to close this up. So last thing to show you here, which is very, very cool feature, and then we'll have some time for questions. I'm going to show you this button right here, which is our Immersive tool. And this Immersive tool is actually easier to show you in a video that I created just before we started this webinar, so you can see it from the user's point of view as well as what you see on the screen. First thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my classroom. And when I'm in my classroom now, maybe I'll just pan around here and I'm like, oops, let me spin this around. There we go. So here I am inside the classroom. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my screen sharing. And we're going to take a look at this video that I just created. So, Immersive View, this button, when I click on it, that sets up the iPad as though I'm looking through a window. Now, what you're looking at in the upper left-hand corner is the room I'm sitting in right now. And I recorded this just earlier. And because I had a nice big screen on my classroom, I thought I'll relate it to the screen that we see here inside this particular project. The Immersive View now detects how I'm moving my iPad at the job site. So watch as I hit play and take a look at the video, the webcam is sitting on my iPad right now. So as I'm moving my iPad left and right, you can see the video of what I'm looking at. So imagine, if you will, you're at the job site during construction. You can actually view what this the ductwork looks like above the ceiling. During design mode, this is a great way for you to just walk into a particular room and see how things are constructed. Owners would love this. They could walk into a room, hasn't been even built yet, but they hold their iPad up in front of their face, push the button, and they just start looking around, and they could actually see what the building's going to look like or what the particular area is going to look like. Play that one more time. This little help screen that you see here, if you hit the little question mark down in the lower right-hand corner, this tells you, it's got a little pop-up of what all the buttons are. But great way at any time, maybe you have a meeting with the client. You can say, hey, let's go to this room, and I'll let you look around in that room. And all they have to do is press one button, and they just turn around, lift the iPad up and down, and they can look at anything they want to in the room. No need to pinch and zoom. No need to do one finger, two finger, three finger modes with the iPad. You push one button, and you can look around the entire room. All right. To finish up, guys, I just wanted to point out that webinars, we try and do these regularly on our website, ASTI.com. Okay, right down there at the bottom, we do have another webinar coming up on how we can go from scan to BIM. So if you want to register for that one, there's a link on our website. We also do some events on Live Lab Learning, and so you may want to check the list. I don't know what we have coming up next with Live Lab, but we have events, and I've done some webinars through Live Lab Learning as well. But as far as Glue today, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Linda, would that be, are you going to let me know the questions? Hey, Linda or Todd? All right, I can look at some of the questions. It's a real small screen, so I'm going to try and answer some of these if I can read them. All right, there was a question concerning if it's available on the Android. Not yet, not that I'm aware of it, and I'm not sure what Autodesk plans are for that. let me see if I can post these questions. Here we go. All right, so let's see here. Are the models reviewed periodically, or are they synced to glue similar to syncing to central? Great question. However you want to do it. I know one contractor, one subcontractor, or MEP engineer, they glue twice a day. So you can do it as often as you like. Is there an easy way to download all current models at once to use it in Navis, Revit, or AutoCAD? Currently we download files individually. Yeah, there isn't. Now I will say this, when you take the files and you glue them up to the web, it gets converted to a DWF file. So if you're thinking of trying to download them and access them with Revit, you know, you won't be able to because they get converted from Revit or AutoCAD to a DWF. But individually is the only way. Question, can you modify the view according to construction phase? Oh, that's a good question. I'm hesitating because I use a number of other products and I'm trying to remember. I don't want to get it confused with another product. I don't know the real answer to that question. I will find out and we'll get it posted when we share the video. So I don't believe so, but I just want to confirm that. Oh, actually it says here, never mind, the question's been answered. All right, what is the recommended connection / bandwidth requirements to use the cloud-based software? All right, great question. It is dependent. The larger the model, the more bandwidth that that's required. You know, what I would say is, you know, you want some sort of commercial service. We have a pretty large pipe here at our office. There was only one company that I know ran into a problem. Everybody else that I spoke to or was using this, they didn't have as much of a problem. So I don't know the actual bandwidth to tell you to get, but you do want a large pipe to handle the data. See the next question. Oh, there was also a question, any word from Autodesk for using the mobile devices, Androids, or Windows 8 tablets? The Windows 8 tablets, if you can access the internet, you can run it on a, oh, let me correct that stuff. I haven't tested it on a Windows 8 tablet. Windows 7 tablets I have. I haven't tested it on Windows 8 tablets, so I can't comment on that. But it will run on Windows 7 tablets. This will be posted, and I will check with I don't know when it'll be posted, but our marketing person, they will post it. No Android app for BIM 360 Glue, that's correct. Can you view older versions of a model? You can go back to a previous version, yes. Can you measure from core instead of finish? Great question. I don't believe you can. I would have to test it, but I'm pretty sure that you cannot because I can't see the, and in fact, now that I think about it, no, you can't because it's going to get converted to a DWF file, and so that information is not going to get transferred over. How does the immersive tool know where you are in the project? Great question. All right, it doesn't know yet like a GPS knows where you are on the site. So you would travel to that particular room or you set up a view to that particular room. So once you get to that view, then you can use the immersive control to look around the room. And you can't walk forwards or backwards. That doesn't work. It's simply rotating around 360 degrees. Can models created in other formats other than Revit be glued and synced with Revit models? No, I don't know about syncing back to the Revit model because if the element ID, Revit uses element IDs to keep track of objects, and that element ID is what gets glued, if you will. And so when there's a problem and then you use the pinpoint option, it's using the element ID. So Revit's creating the element ID, and if you're using some other third-party program, you're not going to be able to bring that back into the Revit model. So no. Can you do markups in plan view or section? Can you cut sections in glue model? Yeah, that was something I didn't have time to show you. You know, I only posted a 3D view. I can post plan views. I can post elevations. The other thing I could also do with glue is I can create sections live. So I can hit the section tool, and now I can create a 3D section and look at my building that way. There was a question here. Since our subscriptions have changed for A360 and A360 Drive, what is the difference between Drive and Glue? All right. I don't know enough about Drive to comment on Drive. Glue is the service that multiple people can upload their model, and they have the functionality that I went through today and a few other functionalities which I didn't have time to do. I don't know if Drive is more like a Dropbox or FTP site, but that's not what Glue is. Glue is a coordination tool used by architects, engineers, and even contractors. And I'm just looking for any more questions here. Here's a good question. It says, how does the model location placement work when linking various models? Does it link them with the auto origin to origin shared coordinates, or is there a way to manually place it? Yes to all of it. When you bring in the models, okay, you have the ability, you have what's called the transform tool, that you can move the models in an XYZ coordinate. If you use shared coordinates, when you go to glue the model, you have that option to tell Glue to use shared coordinates. So you have multiple ways of doing it. If any models come in where they don't line up properly, then you can always move the model to the correct location. And once it's saved, future updates by the author, whether it's an architect or an engineer, they will always line up. So the first time, you may have to do a little manipulating if somebody's not using the correct coordinate system. But once you do it one time, then it'll always be lined up. Can an AutoCAD architectural model be uploaded and glued to Revit models? Can they? I don't believe so. I'm wondering about that, but I don't believe so. Can you print from glue? Okay, this is a popular, or this question's come up before, especially people ask, can you print reports from glue? You can't print from glue. The glue is a live model, if you will, so it's ever changing. And so, especially with your clash reports, you know, as you keep uploading newer versions of models to the Glue website, your clash reports will automatically resolve themselves. New clashes will appear, other clashes will resolve themselves. I know in Navisworks we would generate reports, but Glue, that's not how Glue functions. The whole idea with Glue is it's always changing, and so once you create a print, then that print will become obsolete the next time somebody puts a new version up on the web or on the Glue site. All right, I've gone over a little bit, guys, so I apologize. If there's any other questions, I pretty much went right down the list here, so I thank you for your time. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and there is one question I will try and follow up on and get that information put into our reporting. All right, thank you everybody.